Running down to Cuba for a load of sugar, way me boys for Cuba. Make her run, you lime juice squeezers, running down to Cuba. Way me boys for Cuba, running down to Cuba. Running down to Cuba with a press of sail, way me boys for Cuba. Flinging the water all over the rail, running down to Cuba. Way me boys for Cuba, running down to Cuba. Oh my God, how the winds do blow, way me boys for Cuba. Running on south from the ice and snow, running down to Cuba. Way me boys for Cuba, running down to Cuba. Oh, I've got a gal 'bout 9 feet tall, way me boys for Cuba. She sleeps in the kitchen with her feet in the hall, running down to Cuba. Way me boys for Cuba, running down to Cuba. Yes, that's my gal, and her name is Eliza, way me boys for Cuba. You can guess where she gives me a riser, running down to Cuba. Way me boys for Cuba, running down to Cuba. Can she cook and can she clean, way me boys for Cuba. Can she play the tambourine, running down to Cuba. Way me boys for Cuba, running down to Cuba. Oh, she can love and she can bake, way me boys for Cuba. She can slap my ass and she bakes me a cake, running down to Cuba. Way me boys for Cuba, running down to Cuba. That's my gal, she can dance the fandango, way me boys for Cuba. Cheeks like a melon, take sweet as mango, running down to Cuba. Way me boys for Cuba, running down to Cuba. Load the sugar and homeward go, way me boys for Cuba. 'Cause Mr. May, he told me so, running down to Cuba. Way me boys for Cuba, running down to Cuba.